The real template that Paul used in every time that he told the story was he started off by saying, this isn't my story, this is God's story. This is the story of how God has shown up in this world. And he's shown up in my life too, and I'm going to tell you about that. But it is God who has shown up, and it is God who wants to show up in your life. So Paul starts off essentially by saying, step one, God has a plan. And then he sets the stage for that plan. And then, as Paul tells it, and he sucked me into that plan, which, by the way, upended my life in every possible way. But the next step, I am honored to be a part of God's plan. And I believe that God has brought me to this place right here and now to be able to share God's plan with you. Think about Paul for just a minute. As Paul was telling his story, he started off by talking about the traditions of the prophets, the Old Testament. And so he's talking about God's plan for salvation for all of humanity. He set the stage for then what happened in his life. But we have to be careful about what he shared about his life. His life wasn't about having a sad state of affairs and a search for happiness. No, quite the contrary. He's like, listen, I came from a wealthy family. They sent me to a prep school in Jerusalem. I was one of the smartest guys out there. I was respected by my peers, feared by my enemies. I was on top of the world. And God showed up and screwed all that up. Now look at me. I'm in chains. I've been in jail for like 5 years right now, and I'm going to be in jail a lot longer. And guess what? I'm going to end up dead at the end of all of this. And I am honored to be a part of that because it's not my story, it's God's story. And because of what God is doing, I get to be a part of sharing that story with you, King Agrippa, right now. Imagine a guy like me is standing in front of the king and will eventually stand in front of Caesar himself. And guess what I get to do? I get to tell him about Jesus because that's the story that matters.